03-632-407 if you want to call in with any questions. And so what's on the show today? We're going to be talking about conscious parenting. So if you have any conscious or parenting questions, some tough parenting questions, by all means call in and we'll see if we can help answer them for you today. So what is conscious parenting? How to stop yelling and start connecting. So if you ever think about how much time you spend yelling at your kids and how much time you spend connecting with your kids, and you might be surprised what that ratio actually is. So we're going to give you some examples of conscious parenting today. We're also going to talk about the 3 pillars of conscious parenting, and we're going to pull a tool out of our consciousness toolbox that you can use in your everyday life that relates to parenting. We're going to also do our weekly challenge again this week, which is something that we've experienced and how we handled it. And what else we got, Lisa?
We're going to do the conscious question of the day. And the question is, how could empathy work in parenting? Isn't empathy just like giving in? So we're going to answer that, and we're going to talk about what that really means. And we're going to take any calls. And we always have questions that we get asked in the clinic, or some of our patients that say, oh, well, I see this show's coming up, and ask us questions. So we always keep these here too to answer. So everybody's got some, we got some questions to answer.
Great.
All right, so we're going to start with what is conscious parenting? Is peaceful parenting, is it really possible? And that we're really using the topic tonight because we just did a conscious parenting event in Southern Alberta just this past couple of weeks, and we had some really good response, and we had a lot of people that wanted to attend and couldn't. So we wanted to bring it up today so that people had a chance to call in and we had a chance to answer the question about what it really is. Because we all know, if you're a parent, or even you've been parented, if you're here, that it's the most rewarding but the most challenging thing we ever do too. It's also quite exhausting at times, and we can all agree with that. And we can count on our kids to push every button that we have. And so conscious parenting is really how we manage our own emotions regardless of our child's behavior. And it frees us up to respond to our child's needs and offer guidance and love to help the child every time. And we always get the question every time, like, there is no way you could handle a child having a tantrum or sibling rivalry, that you can always handle it in a better way. But there is a better way. So what is conscious parenting? It's when we guide our children with love, and we learn to turn to love, and we learn to manage ourselves. Because what we really want to develop in our kids is an inner compass, their inner compass, that protects them and helps them make the choices around their own integrity, not just what we believe as parents or what we believe is right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. And we want to realize that we're not always going to be there around as our kids get older, especially, and they get a little more independent, and then we want them to have that moral compass, or that place where they can make those good decisions on their own and learn those strategies.
It's going to happen quick too. Your kid's going to be on the playground, and there's going to be a bully, or there's going to be something going on, or they're going to want to get their own way, or prove something to somebody. So we're teaching them their own inner compass so that they know what's right for them, and not just be told by adults in their world how to behave. And the other part of it too is developing the tools that they're going to need to thrive in their life. So it comes with 3 pillars, and we're going to just talk about them quick, and then we're going to explain them. So the first one is regulating ourselves. Our first responsibility as a parent is ourselves. And all the people that we had in our workshop would agree. They're like, we spent like 2 hours just talking about our own emotions and how we get triggered and how we instantly go to yelling, or how it's showing up in our body. So we're going to talk about that. The second pillar is connection. And really, that's what our kids need the most from us, It is the secret to happy parenting is connecting. And we're going to expand on it. And the last one is emotional coaching, and that's become a real, a big topic even in the corporate world, in relationships, and in parenting as well. And what it really means is we're coaching instead of controlling our kids. Because if all we're doing is controlling them, they're not really learning how to behave without the guidelines that we set for them. And it's actually the most effective discipline strategy that there is. And so we're going to talk about that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So call in with any of your questions at the numbers on the screen. And we'll be happy to share exactly what it's like to be a conscious parent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first topic, the first pillar was the regulating ourselves. So we're going to expand on that a little bit. And I think it's interesting too how we start talking about these different strategies that we have for dealing with different parts of our life and how it overlaps between relationships, parenting, how things happen at work, and it's like regulating yourself comes up in all those places, right? It's kind of like the
Across
first
the board.
thing first, exactly. So what we mean by regulating ourselves is we take responsibility for monitoring and regulating our own emotions. Because what happens, especially in parenting situations, you often will actually get triggered. Your child will do something that makes you angry, makes you even possibly scared, or anyways can trigger an emotion in yourself, and then you often will just react with an outburst or possibly yelling
or physical. You get physical
or physical, exactly. Yank them at harm or give them a smack or whatever, or take something away. So it's stopping that stop, drop, and breathe that we talked about. And if you want to go back to one of our previous shows where we talked the whole show about triggers, recognizing that if you do get triggered, that's a time to stop. Recognize that you're triggered, drop into your heart, and then breathe. Yeah, stop, drop, and breathe.
And drop the story.
Drop. Yeah, let go of the emotion around that, and then to say, what does my child actually need in this situation? So when you take responsibility, you're actually able to teach your child in a healthy way, and the teaching is actually what we're going to talk about more. Is when you're actually coaching your child. So it's non-reactive, and it's basically responding with empathy, and we're going to expand on that part of it more as well. And recognize that we really have to accept our child's big emotions, and we have to do that with compassion, because we want our children to be able to share the big emotions with us and not have those emotions shut down every time something comes to the surface for them. So we need to actually take care of our own self-care. So that means if we do get triggered or we've had our own stressful day or whatever, we need to have our self-care, where we know everybody has a busy life, we all have stress, but you have to recognize that you can make a priority to do time management, so that during your time of your day, you've got time to connect with your children, spend time with your children, and also not be stressing yourself or always being 10 minutes late for something, or always having your schedule really time schedule really pushing you. And also finding outlets for your stress, whether that's exercise or reading or going to yoga or getting massage. And again, I know it's a bit tough sometimes when you're raising kids and you're people working and all the stuff that has to be done. But sometimes you think, well, I'm not. Are you willing to take care of yourself for yourself? Oftentimes the answer is no. Then sometimes you say, well, am I willing to take care of myself for my spouse and my relationship? Sometimes the answer is still no. So the question then is, are you willing to do this for your children? Is that what will actually, but hopefully motivate you to say, you know what, I need to improve my time management, decrease my stress levels, so that I can actually have a better relationship with my children.
And how that really works is you actually have to put it in your day timer. Like, get home and not say, well, I just got to get straight to dinner. Your kids need you. They need a little bit of in-time, like connection, and it might be a roughhousing, or it might be a snuggle, or it might be anything that is right for them. They need that, and that really helps.
And even if it's a car ride from one place to the next event, if you can have them put their electronics away and maybe just have a nice little conversation during that, whether it's a 5-minute or a 10 or a 20-minute drive, that little bit of connection time, if you can get the kids to put their electronics down.
and what we do too is we really coach, especially our parents, is we can't just say, how was your day, right? Because we have to have those open-ended questions like, was there a time in your day that you had to be kind, or a time in your day that was a struggle, you know, and talk to them about things that are not just the normal, how was your day? What did you do? Do you have any homework? You know.
Yeah, you don't want to just get a yes answer or a no answer or a humph. Yeah, so basically regulating yourself. It's really recognizing that in order for you to, again, not be reactive with your children, you've got to be that safe place where they can actually express themselves, the goods about the day, the not so goods about their day. Their emotions are okay to be felt and talked about, and any of their challenges, and that you're ready to talk, and that you're not in this place of being, you know, stressed out. And you know, if you think about a coach and you're watching a coach coaching a team, and if he's pulling his hair out and screaming at the ref, and you know, he's probably not being that effective coaching the kids at that point. You have a coach that's calm and knows what's going on with the kids and who needs a little advice here and a little bit there. That's, you know, when they're calm and collected and really connecting with the kids, it's so much more effective. So that's what we want for ourselves.
Great.
All right.
So we're going to go right to our emotions and when we get triggered. So our children are going to trigger us. That is an absolute. Guaranteed. And we've talked about this in our trigger show, is our children didn't install that trigger. That's been inside of us for a long time. In fact, our child is giving us the opportunity to notice the trigger, to face the trigger, and ultimately, like, heal it and deal with it. And that's what the gift that they are to us.
Yeah, recognize that there's so many things that your children will do that will remind you of your own childhood or your siblings, how you experience when you're siblings or something like that. And again, so those old emotions, that stuff that you haven't unpacked yet, will certainly come to the surface. And again, it's a great opportunity to look at those pieces.
And remember, in our trigger show, all our triggers are like all our old baggage inside of us, like the pain and the wounds and the parts of us that are unhealed and still feel very emotional for us. And we call that baggage, right? So we're carrying that baggage around from relationship to relationship, from child to parenting to work. And then if we don't deal with it, we absolutely take that old baggage and all those triggers and we actually dump it on our kids, right? And then now they're carrying some of our baggage as well as their own, because they're feeling rejected and wondering why it's so tough to make it work.
And we've talked about it before, it's almost like you have that lens that you're parenting through this lens of your own pain and your own unfelt childhood traumas, basically. And and that gets kind of projected on your children.
And we get a lot of people that have questions right in this part of like the workshop that we do, is because they'll say, well, what do I do with all those unprocessed emotions? Like, I can't, like, deal with it right in that moment. No, you can't. I mean, it's an opportunity to stop and not let those old emotions control the process of connection with your child. And we did a whole bunch of really great exercises in our workshop, is like, even when you're stopping and going and thinking of something you really, really love, like your child when they're sleeping. Like, there's nothing more beautiful, right, than your child sleeping, on your chest or in your arms. Or, it's connecting to pure unconditional love in that moment and choosing love instead of fear, because that's really when we're triggered. We absolutely lean into the fear. And often parents say, but I don't know what else to do. Like, I smacked him, or I
we all did.
I put them in timeout, I slammed the door, they're in their room, I did all the people in our workshops go, I just don't know what else to do.
Yeah, that's my other options.
Yeah, if I had something different to do that was more effective, I sure would use it. So then we give them lots of tools.
So yeah, it's a good point about recognizing in the moment you're not going to be able to deal with your own trigger and emotional stuff, because you want to be able to be there for your child. So you just have to get yourself calmed down and let that trigger go. And then you want to revisit that later, though, because so you're not repeatedly getting triggered by that same thing over and over again. And so if you can, especially with your spouse's support or whatever, you can talk about what the feelings
really triggered,
what the feelings are around it, and or get coached through it. But coaches like ourselves. Always helpful.
So, talking about the triggers, and this is and we know it's the unprocessed emotions from our own childhood. So it's kind of, in another way, saying we're lugging around all our old feelings and all our own memories like unconscious baggage. So we're going to get triggered as we go through our life unless we face it and we deal with it and we heal it. But it'll send us right into our unconscious mind, which means we do and say things that we would never do if we were being conscious and aware. Because that's what a trigger does, and that's what our kids will do, is they'll send us right into previous pain and previous emotions.
Unconscious reaction.
An unconscious reaction. And so we're just going to talk quick about, there's 3 ways to handle anything when you're faced with conflict. And it's the fight, flight, or freeze. So the fight is you're annoyed. You're feeling victimized. You want to justify. You got to be right. You're feeling physical. The flight is you're spacing out. It's like, I'm just going to check my phone, or I feel sick and I want to just go shopping, or you start fantasizing, or you just have repetitive thoughts that don't really serve anything. And then there's the freeze. The freeze is the last one, and that's where you go numb. You can fall asleep, you'll go to eat something, you'll turn to your addictions, but you're really just distancing yourself from the situation. So each one of those doesn't serve you. It's a way to cope. And so in the program that we teach is we're asking you to just recognize it and go, oh, I'm going into my fight, reaction right now. And I'm going to stop that because I choose to make a new way to handle my children and my emotions.
All right, so we're going to talk about something that's very important to recognize with your child, especially your children that are going to daycare or when they're the school age. We're going to talk about their emotional backpack. And so that's a concept where if you think about your children when they're, say, at daycare or at school, certainly, and depending how their day goes, somebody might have pushed them, or somebody might have said something mean to them, or something may have made them felt ashamed, or
couldn't make it to the bathroom.
Couldn't make it to the bathroom in time, or just barely made it, and again, an embarrassing issue, or just a stressful time. So anyways, that kind of thing. Most of the children can't always feel all their feelings or share their emotions at school. They got to kind of keep it under wraps, because of course they want to fit in, they don't want to show any weakness, all those kinds of things. So those feelings, when they come up, they get stuffed in consider this little backpack.
I love this analogy.
Yeah. And so they look like they got through the day just fine at school, and teachers are happy and everybody seemed to get along and no big outbursts, yet they come home and now all of a sudden they're wreaking havoc. And it's because they've got this backpack that's all full of these emotions that have built up all during the day, and now they'd like to be able to feel some of those feelings, and they come home and that's a safe place and you're there. And so sometimes they start, maybe they don't know how to feel those feelings, or the feelings start coming up and they kind of feel yucky, so maybe they'll just do something to pick a fight with their sibling, or they'll pick a fight with you, they'll say something mean, or they'll do something to trigger you, and then they get a bit of a fight going, and that allows them to get some of their emotions out, but it really doesn't actually get into the emotional backpack and really get deep into those. So what we recommend is actually taking the time to sit down and ask those questions, like, tell me about your day. Tell me the best part about your day. Tell me the worst part about your day.
What was difficult today?
Yeah, what was difficult today. Questions like that, just to get them started talking, and then they can say, oh, this really didn't know, and well, how did you feel? And then maybe they were sad, maybe they were mad. And then they get to start one at a time, pulling out these emotions and feeling them and expressing them to you in a safe place, and you just let them go, and you don't say, oh, you shouldn't have felt that way, or, well, you could have done better or done something different. It's like, no. Just let all those emotions out. Because what happens if they don't do it that day, they just stay in the backpack and they go back to school the next day, and then they put another little load in there, another day they load in there and come back, and if they can't get a chance to unload it, then off they go to school the next day with a fuller backpack. And and here we are as adults and parents, and if we didn't get the chance to unpack our emotional backpack through most of our childhood, guess what? We've still got that little gunny sack.
Suitcases and luggage that's full of emotional pain.
So what a gift to our children if we can actually help them on almost a daily basis to unload that emotional backpack, so that the stuff isn't continually building up and building up and building up until there's a big outburst, at times. And again, that's one of the primary reasons why siblings fight, is because their emotional backpacks get full and they can't keep it down, and so they pick a fight just so they can have a cry or get angry or hit somebody or hit something. So again, the emotional backpack is a great way of looking at how your children are dealing with their day, and how to have that time set aside to help them unload their backpack each day.
Yeah, because soon as they can, and I mean, everybody knows this in their own experience, the moment you're heard and you're able to share what you're feeling, everything starts to dissolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as somebody says, I hear you, I understand,
Mm-hmm.
that must have been tough.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just all of a sudden feel
And then
more
like, well,
relaxed.
yeah, and then there's like, well, I guess it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
Right, it's just being heard,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So that comes to the conscious question of the day. I asked it earlier, how could empathy really work in parenting? Isn't empathy like giving in? And this comes up a lot. A lot of people say, well, I can't see how empathy can work, because it'll almost feel like I'm siding with my kid. And you are.
Or giving in.
But what we do with empathy, and we're going to go through some really good examples, is we learn to connect through empathy. And that doesn't mean the child gets their way, or they don't have to go to bed, or, you're going to change the
You
rules.
don't have to change the rules, no.
Nothing changes. It's just empathizing how hard it is for them to follow the rules, or to go to bed, or to be kind, or whatever's coming up for them. So it's connection through empathy. It is the most effective tool when we work with our children to handle and manage their emotions. It's the one way to absolutely get to the backpack, get to their little backpack and start unloading it. What empathy really is an understanding of what another person is feeling, and an expression of that understanding. It's one of the most powerful ways to connect with your child. When your child feels understood, and that they're not alone in their suffering, because they came home and they're suffering. And if they feel understood and they're not alone, then they can start connecting to you and start to reach in and start pulling out the emotions and the pain and the disappointment of the day. So we're going to give you some really good examples. The first one that came up in the last few weeks is, what about bedtimes? Like, I can't just say, oh, you just don't want to go to bed. That's too bad. You don't want to go to bed. It's a little different than that, right? It's not saying they get to stay up. And we're going to give some, you can say, I see you're really having a hard time with getting to bed tonight and getting to sleep. And if I might add to that, it might be that they've got unfelt, like they got stuff to feel. And so they can't lay down and go to sleep, because like adults, we have stuff bubbling up, right? That if we've got lots on our mind and lots on our heart, we can't sleep. Or we've had a conflict with someone in the day, we just think, oh man, that was so awful. It makes me feel so unsettled. So your little
head
kiddo,
might just be going,
it could be doing that very
Spinning.
same thing. And so a good practice that we teach our parents is to actually set aside some time to start unpacking the backpack at night and talking about it, and seeing what could come out at that time of the night when you're having a good snuggle and you're connecting. And we have like hundreds of questions that we share with our parents on how to get to the good stuff and not just talk about surface level stuff like, how did you feel about that, right? And so, we say things like, you look so sad, or that must have been so hard. It sounds like you had a hard time with that. And I'm sorry this was so hard. That must have felt terrible. Right? So we're just empathizing and we're connecting, because what that does is it opens the door for them to release and go, yeah, it was really hard, because I wanted to hit somebody and I knew I couldn't, and they really made me mad. or whatever is happening, and they can start unloading those feelings. And you can just agree, oh, it sounds like you got really mad, and it sounds like that didn't feel fair. And instead of what's the traditional way of handling it? Oh, you were fine. That wasn't so bad. And you need to learn to be nicer. And like,
or tougher.
Yeah, or tougher. Or stop being so mean. Or why do you act this way around me when you're good around everybody else, right? It's because you're safe. You bring the love and the safety to open up and release the emotions that they couldn't face during the day. So really, sometimes just the easiest thing, like we have parents that go, I can't even think of empathetic things to say. And 2 quick things is, oh, that sounds like it really sucked. It sounds like that was really hard. And that's all you need to say, because then they will just start to open up, and their heart will just start pouring out, and they'll cry, or they'll just, like, we all know, as soon as you're heard and you're listened to and you're understood, you just start to allow that the feelings just come out, to bubble up and come out. Get that backpack and bring them all out. And even when your kid starts to get onto what you're doing, you can say, you know, what do you got in your backpack today? What happened today? Or play a little game called Name It to Tame It, right? Because we got to find it, right? And then we're going to tame it. We're going to feel all those hurt feelings. And then we just, sometimes they just need to be held and have a good cry. And we always go back to the 3 ways, right, of how do we support you? How can I support you tonight? Do you need me to hold you? Do you want me to just have my arm on your shoulder? Or do you just want me to sit here? Because I'm going to stay. I'm right here till you feel all your tears and all your fears. And you just be available. And that's all you have to do.
And recognize when you're there and you're open to letting them feel all their feelings, they usually move through them really quite quickly.
Really quick.
They don't just stay and cry and cry and cry. They usually, once they're being heard and they know that you're empathizing with what they're going through, they move through it much quicker than you would think.
And it's really interesting, because then you can follow up with, wow, that must have been a really hard thing you went through. Do you need some help coming up with a solution? Or what might happen, you know, if it happens again, right? And then you can have those discussions, right? And then they kind of get excited that they're supported. They're now talking about a solution, and they're actually finding a way through some of the tough stuff, because everybody's got tough stuff. But really, the whole empathy piece is just letting them feel everything and letting them know that you're there with them and you're going to support them through it. And like Dawn said, they'll just go through it really quick. Because we have lots of people say, well, if I go, I'm going to sit here with all your tears and your fears. My child's just going to cry. It's going to be dramatic, and it'll go on forever. Well, no, that happens when you aren't being empathetic and understanding.
Exactly.
They're going to keep going on like that when in the opposite. And that's what you're afraid of. But if you sit down, put down your electronics, turn off dinner, and come on over and make eye contact, and even mirror their body language and say, wow, sounds like that was really tough.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, sounds like you really had a hard time with that. And then they're just like, holy, somebody's here. They're available. And then it'll all come out. And then they're packed. And it will be fast. You're absolutely right. It happens super, super fast. And what really changes is you, not so much them. You made the change.
That's right. You're making the changes and giving them the opportunity to just do what they want to do naturally.
And you know, there's one great line that I love here is, I'm not always going to be able to give you what you want, but I'm always here to listen. Yeah, right. So that doesn't mean you get the toy at the store, you know.
Or you get to stay up an hour later.
No,
or anything.
it's like,
the rules
I'm
don't
going to
change.
hear all about how hard this is, but it's still 8 o'clock, right? And it's time for bed. And then ask them, well, bedtime seems to be really tough for you. Let's come up with a win-win solution on how to do this different tomorrow night. Maybe we need to get ready by 7:30 so we have this time to talk and connect. So, yeah.
Great. All right, so now we're going to talk about go into our conscious toolkit, and we're going to upload a little tool for you guys to use, and it's somewhat similar to the backpack theory, but what we're calling this one is a scheduled meltdown. And that's something that you might even just do once a week, and you might be on the weekend or something like that. And you're going to let your child or your children have if they need to have a meltdown, if there's been emotions they haven't been able to feel all week long or at some point during the week, and hopefully you don't anger or sadness or something along that line. And it's an opportunity to say, hey, let's just see if we've got anything that we need to just let it out. And if you want, the best thing to do is set the example yourself and say, you know what, here's something that happened to me this week, and it made me angry, or made me sad, or it was really frustrating, and so I'm going to take this pillow and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to holler a little bit and beat up this pillow a little bit, and then I'll feel better. And then your child will say, oh, then give your child a chance to, do you need to feel some sadness? Do you need to feel some anger? Anything make you mad or frustrated this week? And there's no, of course, no violence. There's no hitting of anybody, because it could be your sibling, or it could be your parents, or somebody else that they're mad at. They could be mad at you, or they could be mad at, again, one of their siblings. But if they need to hit a pillow, or just jump up and down, and maybe you just want to put on some loud music and do some crazy dancing for a while.
And say, I gotta get all this crazy
and just
out.
get the crazy out, or get this energy out. And if some feelings come to the surface, with the dancing and loud music, or some hollering, and next thing you know, maybe there will be some tears, or there'll be some anger, and they'll be wanting to punch something. So having this time with a scheduled meltdown, and again, especially if you will lead the way and start being, again, coaching by example, by saying, you know what, I didn't get to feel all that anger, all that frustration this week because I had to get through the workday, so I'm going to feel it now. And then say, what have you got that you would like to feel? And maybe they watch you do it and they say, actually I'm pretty happy, maybe I'll just do some crazy dancing and just have some fun with it. And just getting the physical movement alone is very healing in that way too, and knowing that the opportunity is available.
And when you're showing the way, it shows the child that we all experience this, right? Because
not like we're living perfect lives with no frustrations and no anger and no upsets and no.
Or say, I was at work and we had this project, and the person took all the credit, and I was a big part of the project too, so I felt really let down, and I feel really mad that worked out that way. And even if it's at your day, like not on your scheduled meltdown, say, when we have our next scheduled meltdown, that's what I'm going to feel, right? So that you're modeling. And I know it sounds a little childlike.
And it'll get them thinking, oh, I wonder what I'm going to feel. What if there's something coming up for me that I can do with a scheduled meltdown?
Right.
It'll be in the back of their mind.
And then one great tool too that we teach parents is to have like a journal or a notebook, and it's your family journal or your family notebook, so that, and that's going to come up right away here, is a notebook on your table with lots of pens, and if anything comes up in your family, you can go and write in that notebook, like, oh, I need a scheduled meltdown soon because I've got some stuff to feel. And you need to lead the way for your kids, right? Say, yep, I'm going to get triggered, so I'm going to have to really deal with this before it becomes a problem. And we have to get kind of childlike with them so that they really feel heard. And we, even at our parenting workshop, how many parents said, my kids are asking me so many questions about my childhood. What were you like? What happened? What if this happened to you when you were a kid? What did your parents do?
What did grandma and grandpa do to you?
And that was really neat too.
Yeah.
Right, so it's really sharing your vulnerability with your kids and saying, so that they know there's tough stuff in this world. But you're a team, you're a family, and you're going to work through it together. And write it down in that book. And I'm going to talk about it again. Like, if there's a book there, that's your family book, that you talk about the things with your family, or this needs to be addressed, or, there's something coming up that I want to do on my birthday, or, I want to go to the zoo, or, have a friend over. It's in the book, and then the kids feel like they've got a connection with you, some communication with you, that, and it's our job as the parents to follow through on it. Because when we let them down by saying, oh, I'll read you a book tomorrow night, and you don't do it, you've broken that trust with them, right? So that's, if it's 8 o'clock and your child goes, but I always get a story, and you always read me a story, and say, well, we can't break the rule, but we sure can put it in the book so we don't forget to do it tomorrow night. And so it gives that child a place, and you a place to be accountable to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really works.
Great tip. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a really good strategy.
All right, so our weekly challenge.
And this is an example of the third pillar, which is the coaching instead of controlling.
Yes, and coaching, and it brings back the notebook or the journal, your family journal. So what parent hasn't been to the store and your child wants a toy and they want something, and it doesn't matter, it could be a toy, it could be candy, it could be a Slurpee, whatever, and they're whining and they're begging and it gets relentless, and they're trying everything they can to get what they want. I mean, we can all agree that we've been in that place.
Very frustrating.
It's very frustrating for everybody. You're feeling triggered because every other parent's looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking they're judging you for how you're going to react and what you're
Mm-hmm.
going to do. And I mean, you get deeper and deeper
Mm-hmm.
into the frustration of it all. So our answer to that is to stop. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Stop what you're doing. Don't get angry or start getting physical with your child. Drop into your heart. Lead with love. Choose love. Go back to that place. Like, my child is not giving me a hard time. He's having a hard time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So go to that place and breathe and go, okay, I'm going to respond to this with empathy. And what would that look like? So first we go to, yeah, you really want that. I see that. I know you're mad. And I get it. I understand. I can hear it in your voice how much you want it. And you're right. I know you want it. And then what we're going to do, and we actually got a really good tip from someone at our workshop. She says what she does is she'll say, let's take a picture of it on the phone. We can't have it today.
Oh, yeah, here's a picture of you holding it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then this is what you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we're going to go home and we're going to put it in our journal,
Or on
family journal.
or on your birthday list, or
yeah,
whatever it might be.
but our birthday list is in that's like, for my next birthday, I want this toy, and
Yeah.
Mom's got a picture on her phone, and this is the date. And what it does is you've empathized with them, you're choosing love, you're not reacting, you're not saying, I said no, cry as much as you want, have your tantrum. What they really want is a connection with you. And
Yeah.
you've just said, okay, I get you,
And
I
you're,
hear you,
You're validating what they want and how they're feeling about it.
and I know you want it.
But yeah, but you still don't have to give in.
Nope,
right?
you don't give in.
Mhm.
But it's on the list. There's a picture, and say, once you get your birthday money from your grandma, we'll go back to that. And if you still want it, it's all yours. Or you play a little game with them too and say, I wish we had every toy in the store. What big of a truck would we need if we took every toy and took it home today? And you just start playing, and connecting with them and distracting them a little bit.
Yeah, get their
and making
imagination
it
going.
fun.
Mhm.
And making it fun, right? So, yeah, so we all just find a way to get through with empathy and connect. And if you can't think of something empathetic to say right away, just say, I see you're having a hard time with that.
Mhm.
Or even a big one is sibling rivalry when they're fighting. It's like, wow, I see you guys are starting to have a hard time. Do you need my help to find a solution to get through this? And just start empathizing and getting them to react differently than you have in the past. Because I think every parent says, if I knew how to do it different, I would. I think
Exactly.
everybody at the workshops would say, if I knew how to do it different, I would.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so I'll just reiterate the three pillars again that we kind of touched on. And first of all, regulating yourself, and by doing that, if you don't do that, it's pretty hard to do step 2 and step 3, right? So step 1 is definitely regulating yourself so that you're not in a place of being triggered, where you're in a place where you've calmed down, you're in your heart, you're empathizing with your child, so you can do part 2.
Can I add to I just thought of some of the tips that some of the parents have shared with us.
Yep.
Is like actually going to the bathroom and splashing cold water on your face, or washing your hands with cold water, just to like change it, like it's time to change the old reaction. Or one parent walked outside and took a walk around, the yard for a minute to cool off before they decided, it's like, how do I choose something empathetic? How do I be empathetic? Right? What's my next line? Because they want to come in the house with the right words.
Exactly. And it's not easy the first few times. I bet as you practice, it'll get easier and quicker, but if you take as much time as you need initially, because it might take a little while to cool down and get through that reactive phase so that you can actually start responding in the way you want and actually, like say, coaching your children. Okay, second pillar is the connection, which is, again, connecting through empathy so that your child feels heard, feels like you're connecting to them. And then from there, the emotional coaching, where you're saying, how are we going to solve this problem? Or how can I help you get through this, find a way through this piece? And what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And then when you're not there, they have tools where they can start to say to themselves, okay, how do I feel? What do I really need here? What's my choice going to be around this situation?
And that's that place where we help them find their inner compass, right? That inner compass of the truth inside of themselves, right? And what we don't want with our kids is blind obedience. It seems like the right thing to do, but it's not. Because if our child becomes obedient to everything we say, then they're not living from their truth, from their center. We want them to question, everything in this world. Because if they are totally obedient to everything every adult says to them, they haven't really found their own way, their own inner compass. Because, and we'll give an example of that is, okay, a child lies or steals from a store. You can say, wow, when is the moment that did not align with your inner compass? How are you feeling in that moment? And then, of course, it's not going to feel good. And that's what you want to get to, is that moment where they go, this is not right for me.
I made that choice, but I know it didn't feel right.
It's going to hurt people. It doesn't line up with my family's values and beliefs, and it doesn't line up with me. Right? And that's what you want from your kids, to
recognize
find
that feeling in themselves when they say, I know that was wrong, even though I did it anyway, but I know it was wrong and I know what that felt like.
Right, because you want them to know that place of connection and peace within themselves, finding their own inner compass. Because parents and adults and authority figures are not going to be around our children all the time. Right?
No, and you don't want them just to be blindly obedient to the next adult that comes along and is in their life, or that they're going to listen to somebody blindly and without, again, having their own.
Because they can be abused and taken advantage of. And that's what can happen when kids
or taken
don't
advantage
know.
of at work, or all kinds of situations, for sure.
Right.
And the other thing, by doing these, once you get doing this for your children, and it becomes the way your house works, recognize as your children get older, you want to be the safe place for your children when they have to start asking the big questions, whether it's going to be about, as they get older, and it's going to be about sex, or it's going to be about drugs, or it's going to be about other choices that they have to, life choices that they have to make. And you want them listening to their friends, or or and their peers, or do you want them maybe coming to you and having a little discussion with you, knowing that you're not going to be reactive, you're going to be open about everything, and that there's no taboos, and everything's fair game to talk about, and you'll give them the straight answers, and then they get it from you, and they'll make their own choices, because they're going to as time goes by, they're going to be a lot more time they're going to be away from you than hang around you. When they're little, they spend lots of time with you. As they get older, less and less. So you want them to still be able to come back to you, and you're that safe place to ask the real good, the tough questions, and to be able to coach them through those parts as well.
Right.
So it's gaining that trust and being the person that's their safe haven is the goal.
Because
long term.
Every parenting workshop that we've done, we ask the questions, what kind of discussions in your home did you have around sex, and all the big ones, like anything that around stealing or lying or cheating on tests. Like, did you have those conversations with your parents? And people like, no, I had to figure out all those things on my own. And
or who did you talk to, or like who was here?
Yeah, was there anyone that was safe enough to talk about all those things? And that's the time when every parent then says, well, I want to be that calm in my child's stormy life of choices.
And it's also very helpful as parents, when you're parenting together, to both be on the same page on these issues, so that they don't hear one thing from mom or something different from dad, or dad will say this but mom's judging what dad's saying about it, or when or getting two different stories. So it's good to ahead of time, hope if you can be anticipating what your children might be coming to you with, and have those conversations with yourselves, so that you're again on the same page, and your children are getting a unified front with the message that you're giving them.
And we talk about doing like even with the big poster board with your kids, like the name of your family, and what does this family stand for? And you could choose every letter of your family name, like our last name's Hogue, like H for honesty,
O for openness,
and goodness, and
uniqueness,
understanding, and extraordinary. We live an extraordinary life with this extraordinary family. And so and then in this poster board, you've got all the things that your family believes in. And so, when you're having a family discussion, go, wow, what we just talked about here, does that line up with what our family believes in? So that the kids have that safe place, like, this is what I believe in, this is what our family values are.
Good. And often your kids can get two perspectives from the two different parents too, because we had different childhoods, right? And we're parented differently when we were growing up, and so they might have a tough question, and you might say, well, I never even had to deal with that as a kid. That never even came up. And for you say, oh my God, that was one of the hardest things I had to go through, right? And so you can share that piece, and so lots of options. All right, well, looks like our time is just about up.
Yep.
So once again, we are LifeWorks International. We have a holistic health and wellness clinic here in Lethbridge, Alberta. We're on Facebook at LifeWorks International. We have an Instagram, LifeWorks International YQL. Our email is info@lifeworksinternational.ca. Our website is lifeworksinternational.ca. We have another Conscious Quest event coming up later in June. It's Sunday, June 23rd at 6:15, and that's at Hudson's Pub again.
Yep.
At Hudson's Canadian Pub. And this one,
Emotional connection.
This one's on emotional connection. So this is
It's
again
a
one of
Sunday
our fun interactive workshops that we do. Lasts for a few hours. The last one we did was the 5 love languages. That one went over really, really well. Lots of good information in that one. This one's going to be about emotional connections. And again, it's very fun. It's interactive. It's kind of like small group learning and interacting, and usually always lots of laughs, lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun information comes up.
And we have a few Wellness Wednesdays coming up. That's where we have health and wellness professionals come in. And tomorrow night, Tammy Nickel and Connie Carnell are doing meditation and mindfulness. And we offer life coaching and other workshops for couples, singles, families, corporate, and for personal development. And we are located here in Lethbridge, and I'm going to finish off by saying to reflect back on our conscious parenting, everything your child says is a code for please love me. Will you accept me and love me? So keep that in mind when they are acting out, is they're saying, will you love me and accept me?
Good point. All right, so once our motto, again, that we share every week is, once you become fearless, life becomes limitless.
All right. Thanks. See you next week.
Have a great night, everybody.